These are the Marxist PKK guerrillas in Turkey, who have been fighting for Kurdish rights here for 7 years. Inside a Turkish village, they tell these Kurds of the new Kurdistan, a Kurdistan not split by the Turkish-Iraqi border. High in the Turkish mountains, these guerrillas easily cross the Iraqi border. This summer, their war against the Turkish army has been fiercer than ever. With Saddam's exit, they today enter into the towns of northern Iraq with little fear. It has meant weapons and supplies have never been so abundant. With Iraq's Kurds unhappy with their own leadership, the PKK offers a policy which does not rely on support from the West. They believe the Americans are in Kurdistan only because they were forced there. But they do see the advantages in what they call the West's interference. With this interference, the border between Turkish and Iraqi Kurdistan has been swept away. The south and north have come together. For our activities, this is a new situation. The Kurdish revolution changes. It enters a new phase. What the PKK is bringing to Kurdish Iraq is organization. All members are photographed and issued with ID cards. Kurds here have traditionally fought against Iraqi domination, but with little cohesion and discipline. The PKK intends to change that. Days begin early for PKK recruits, with 6 hours of political schooling. They teach a classic Maoist philosophy, class struggle, anti-imperialism, the need for class revolution in all of Kurdistan. And women play a central role in their revolution. Unique to the Middle East, they study, live and fight as equals alongside the men. Azimi, a university graduate, joined the PKK with her 2 15-year-old nieces. She left her family for a life dedicated to the war for Kurdish independence. Our people grow up alienated, even in our own beautiful country. Because our people are oppressed, yes, I'm sad. It's not easy to kill someone, but if it's necessary, I must do it. Even against one of my own family, I will do it. A major difficulty is the distance for communications with their headquarters in Lebanon. PKK leaders are now discussing plans to move the main base here into northern Iraq. It would assist with the planning and coordination needed to gain the support of Iraq's Kurds. Dilan is a senior PKK cadre visiting from Lebanon. She believes a new war may well be the only solution, a war which could involve the Americans. As their helicopters still fly overhead, the PKK is left alone. But they believe if a new war for independence begins, the Americans would oppose them. American imperialist policy helped Saddam's rise to power. The success of the Kurdish uprising put American imperialism into difficulties. Instead of seeing Saddam fall, they chose to prop him up. Instead of helping the Kurds, they chose a different political course. Concerned they might be seen as an ambitious foreign organization, Turkey's guerrillas have started a new Iraqi party. PAK, or the Kurdish Socialist Party, is an Iraqi organization with the PKK's Marxist beliefs. Azad used to be a member of the Kurdish Democratic Party. Today he regularly meets with the PKK, informing them of the progress he is making in the towns and cities of northern Iraq. In houses throughout the region, Azad has been recruiting Kurds unhappy with the current status quo. PAK uses PKK literature. It accuses the KDP of being a club of aristocratic landowners, elitist and remote from the people. Instead, they find their heroes in the Turkish guerrillas and teach of the need for a class war for total Kurdish independence. Azad took us to the White Mountains outside Dahuk, where he says his forces have been since the uprising. After the uprising, many comrades fled to the mountains. They were preparing for the war. They are spread throughout Kurdistan. He took us through the gardens of villages bombed by Saddam in 1988. A lookout reveals the well-hidden PKK guerrilla camp. Here these Iraqis live a Spartan existence, eating what they can find in the mountains. PKK blames the KDP leadership for the panic that led to the Kurdish refugee crisis. Today Azad says Iraqi Kurds know better, with more arriving to join PKK's forces each day. The badges they wear give away the PKK's influence, their dedication to a class war. This war which the people will wage will be under the people's command, for the people, and on their initiative. The people should know why they are fighting and what for, just like the war which was fought in Vietnam and China. As PKK trains for a new Kurdish war, it is clear that whether or not Saddam agrees to autonomy, the region is unlikely to see peace in the near future.
In the aftermath of the Iran-Iraq war, Saddam Hussein turned his attention to the north of his country. Despite attempts by the Iraqi authorities to suppress their culture, the Kurds continued to resist. In 1988, in the three northern Iraqi provinces of Mosul, Kirkuk and Arbil, over 4,000 Kurdish villages were destroyed. To this day, no one knows how many people died. Saddam was determined to rid Iraq of the Kurdish problem once and for all. He issued military instructions to empty the Kurdish areas.
After 2 days of fighting, this is the center of the town of Kulp. Many of its 5,000 inhabitants have fled. 3 weeks ago, this was a busy commercial center. Then, local people say, Turkish Kurd guerrillas, hiding in this hotel, shot and killed 2 Turkish soldiers. The army's retaliation was swift and harsh. The hotel owner was shot dead.
The military warned us that if they heard any gunshots, they would burn the town. That's what they warned us. There were 35 people hiding in the hotel toilet. They put petrol on the hotel and threatened to burn it with the people inside. Instead, they took the hotel owner and shot him in another room.
The Turkish army has a different account of events. They claim the PKK launched a full-scale attack on the town, and they say the devastation was caused by a battle. What is clear is that the Turkish government is desperate to defeat the guerrilla fighters of the Marxist PKK. In the last month, it has launched its biggest ever military operation against them. The army dominates the Kurdish town of Cizre, close to the Turkish-Iraqi border. From the military bases near here, the army attacks the PKK inside Turkey. And as these pictures from last Friday show, Turkey also mounts raids across the border, bombing and strafing the guerrilla bases established by the PKK in northern Iraq. Today, Turkey claims to have seized control of the region of Kirkuk, where many rebel camps are based. And on the ground, inside Iraq, the Turkish army have found unlikely allies in the form of the Iraqi Kurds. These 300 Iraqi Kurdish fighters, the Peshmerga, are preparing to drive PKK fighters out of the camps. They fear that the PKK's Marxist philosophy is attracting the support of ordinary Iraqi Kurds. And the Peshmerga can't afford to harbour the PKK. They depend on Turkey for aid and trade, and are desperate not to offend their powerful neighbour. So they're taking up arms against their fellows.
Are you facing resistance?
They fired a couple of shots, but I think they ran away.
The battle's happening over there. Our force here will go to support the soldiers already fighting and will organise a second attack against the PKK bases.
But the PKK are putting up fierce resistance. They're determined not to be driven out of the mountains. And on this occasion, they were too much for the Peshmerga fighters, who were forced to retreat, with 4 dead and many injured. The Iraqi Kurds lost this battle, but it's the PKK's prospects which are grim. This afternoon, the Iraqi Kurdish leader warned the Turkish rebels they must quit Iraqi Kurdistan by Monday or face annihilation. The PKK, now under comprehensive attack from 2 sides, must be anxious for its future.
We want the world, all the world, to know about our suffering from Saddam Hussein, the dictator, the terrorist dictator. بابا كيما شو جماعة يا ترى كيف جماعة ها كيف جماعة خلاص ديفيجن عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Well, you'll finish? Quickly, they are bombed.
The bombs. Mr. Mark.
You see?
I wait for you there. يلا بابا ورا شنينه ان شاء الله يا خالتي ورا يا خالتي ليه help us against Saddam Hussein, that dictator. And you will fight. We'll fight against him till the end. My father is here. See all the children, women. George Bush, why don't you interfere in this? God help us.
قلتي باش ولا خوش لقطة از تصوير كم تصوير كلجك هليكوبتر
Kurdish refugees are again on the road in northern Iraq. This time, they're fleeing Iranian artillery. Along the Iran-Iraq Kurdish border, more than 30 Iraqi Kurdish villages have been shelled by the Iranians. They destroyed all the houses and killed many people. 3 of my children are wounded. Yesterday, they killed 2 more people. The village of Sunna is silent. The day before, more than 500 shells landed here. Most of Sunna's 1,500 people have now fled. The few who remain want to be ready next time. It's a crime that they are shelling and bombing us. There's nowhere for us and our children to hide. We are only farmers. They've demolished that house. It's completely destroyed. The pillars were blown right out. It's destroyed. A new round of Iranian shelling has begun. In 2 hours, we count 76 explosions. Beneath the gaze of the gunners in the Iranian mountains behind, the poor remain to collect what's left of their homes. The shelling was very intense. My children were all screaming and running around the house. I had to gather them from here and there. I took them to the caves in the mountain. A few miles from the bombing, in the Iraqi town of Kaladiza, shell-shocked and injured Kurds are pouring into the hospital. Saddam flattened them last in 1988. Now, the Iranian shelling is a harsh reminder of how vulnerable Iraqi Kurds are. For many years, these people had been forced off their land by the Iraqi government. Now they've managed to return to rebuild their villages, but once again, their houses are being destroyed. Iranian rebels in northern Iraq. Iran says they are the reason she is shelling. The fighters belong to the Kurdish Democratic Party of Iran. They are at war with the Islamic regime next door. They want democracy in Iran and rights for Iranian Kurds. It's because the Iraqi Kurdish authorities leave these fighters free to operate that Iran is so angry. The KDPI have their headquarters in an idyllic mountain range near Bulla. The Iranians want Iraqi Kurds to close down these rebel bases. At headquarters, KDPI leaders are debating this latest crisis. The Kurdish victory in northern Iraq has inspired more young Iranians than ever to head for training in Iraqi Kurdistan. But the KDPI believes their growing presence is not the only reason Iran is attacking northern Iraq. The Iranians recently wrote about the situation in Iraqi Kurdistan. They bluntly described it as an Iraqi Israel. They said Iran should cooperate with Iraq, Syria, Turkey and Russia to eliminate it. In a secret mountain location, Peshmerga fighters guard the KDPI's prison. Here we were shown what lengths Iran is prepared to go to harm the KDPI fighters. Inside, 60 prisoners are all accused of working for the Iranian secret police. They were caught, the KDPI says, while trying to infiltrate the organization. Some of the prisoners were prepared to admit their work. My mission was to join the KDPI and pretend I knew how to cook. Then I was supposed to poison their food. Someone else would bring me the poison. Today, after 2 mines blew up near the headquarters, they've caught another suspect. Now he faces an uncertain fate and days of interrogation. These are some of the 1,000 recruits the KDPI says it has trained in the last year. Since the Iranians began shelling Iraq, the KDPI has stepped up their training program. They're fearful the Iranians have mounted a campaign which could soon need all the fighters they can get. But from Iraqi Kurds at least, they seem under little pressure to change their tactics. For centuries, Kurdish nomads have freely crossed the borders which divide them. Their nomadic lifestyle has helped maintain deep Kurdish bonds. And even as many of these Kurds now flee the shelling, their government says it won't bow to Iran's pressure. Obviously, we sympathize with them. We want them to succeed. They are part of our Kurdish nation and have their rights abused. But our help is limited to giving them shelter in our liberated areas. We don't support them more than that. 12,000 feet up in the mountains, a rebel patrol crosses into Iran. It's becoming more and more difficult for the KDPI fighters to move about. For years, these Peshmerga have ruled the mountaintops. Now Iran is determined to divide Iraqi and Iranian Kurds. Every day Iran seals up another secret crossing point. Until a few weeks ago, the Peshmerga moved freely in these mountains. Now, everywhere they look, Iran seems to be closing in. They show us a military road Iran is spending millions to bulldoze along the rugged border, and the military bases that are going up to protect it. But the fighters insist it won't stop their struggle. We're a guerrilla force. It makes no difference to us where we are based. We have wide freedom of movement, so these attacks will not endanger our capabilities. Our Kurds have sympathy with the KDPI, but so far we haven't joined their struggle. They abide by our rules, but if our leaders decide, our Peshmerga are ready to fight anywhere. Iran probably sees more harm in a free Iraqi Kurdish nation than she does in her own opposition. And the support Kurds here offer each other is unlikely to bring the solutions they dream of. Meanwhile, both must closely watch the skies for the next Iranian move. The powerful Iranian military is not likely to have embarked on a half-hearted venture. More attacks are sure to be on the way.